once again, welcome back to Blaze in the Dark. Last time, after a visit to the very dysfunctional territory of Dunslow, and the slightly less dysfunctional but still leaving a lot to be desired region of Six Towers, the two of you are making your way back to your usual hideout. And it's as you go through the just north of the bridge leading out of Dunslow, that you would encounter Lottie, something of a commotion. You see a large group of people kind of gathered in the street. There's whispers of consternation between them, and two bluecoats desperately trying to maintain a little bit of order. Stand back. Everybody stand back, please.
Try to get closer.
Pushing your way through the crowd, you see a body, or at least the majority of one. Both the head and the hands are missing.
Do I notice anything else? Like maybe it's wealth, or if it belongs. It seems to belong in the neighborhood.
Certainly not a resident of Ironhook. Not Ironhook, of Dunslow. However, there is something familiar about about what you can recognize about the form. The physique triggers something of a memory, and as you sort of get a little bit closer before you are stopped by a blue coat kind of holding up a billy club to prevent you from moving any closer, there you can't help but recognize you can't kind of quite shake the notion that this might be one of your previous targets.
What does the other people around are talking about? Is there anything I can grasp? Maybe somebody who has been here earlier and saw something?
The whispers are also like, who do something like this? This is. I mean, you wouldn't even expect this from the bellhook says, and then from another one is from another side it's going. This is something else. This is something else. There's something else going on here. This is devilry.
Is there any sign of, maybe I'm too far, but is there any sign of what the cause of death could have been? Is it the beheading, or doesn't seems to be something else?
Just glancing at the body and kind of craning your neck, you can see that there's the heavy blue coat shoulder kind of obscures a lot of your view, but craning your neck and just getting a glimpse around, you can see that there's multiple lacerations on the chest, multiple stab wounds.
Just to be clear, he could have that body could have been one of my previous targets, but I didn't kill him.
No.
It wasn't me.
No, you. The part of the reason that you recognise the physique so clearly is you have seen him literally without the shirt on his back.
That.
The last score where you demanded that he give up his clothes as well as all of his money.
Oh.
You kind of did do this.
That's not good at all. I'm gonna leave this place and try to contact the other and tell them what I saw.
With that, you make your way further back across the districts, making your way up through Barrow Cleft and from there back into Crowsfoot. And now treading the somewhat familiar streets, you arrive back at the Whispers store. And Gabriel, as you travel back through from Six Towers, you are suddenly alerted to the sound of the clattering hooves and the rattling wheels on the cobblestones as you make your way through Charter Hall of the all too familiar black carriage of the Spirit Wardens, one of the warden at the front absolutely driving the four horses, the street clearing to allow them through, eyes down, the superstitions emerging once again from the passers-by of not looking at the Spirit Wardens for fear of bringing bad luck and misfortune.
Gabriel takes somewhat of a different tactic than the locals. He doesn't drop his head, but he does avoid looking at them. Mostly he turns his gaze upwards rather than downwards to avoid looking at them.
You do get a glimpse of the carriage, which thunders past, decidedly heading south, and disappearing over Pressgang Bridge, where the Red Sashes are somewhat notorious for collecting an unofficial bridge toll. Even though obviously they don't make any attempt to slow down the carriage, they too averting their gaze, sort of folding their arms, closing in, and decidedly distancing themselves as this thundering cart rolls past.
Gabriel is actually going to continue about his business as long as he doesn't have to go it that exact same way. Reasoning, there are certain things in Gabriel's past that he's not sure if the Spirit Wardens may remember. So he wants to just avoid that, having to cross that bridge. So if there's any other way to get back to Crowsfoot to link back up.
Absolutely, you can continue west and make your way over the Devil's Bridge, which will take you in at the western side of the district. It's a little bit of a roundabout route. You're doing three sides of a square, but eventually you arrive back as the early evening hours begin to take hold, and you're aware of a local bell ringing for the hour of honor.
Also,
about 7 p.m. to you and I.
Also, if during that, I just want to confirm that pathway that I'm taking, are there any furniture stores? Gabriel has a couple of things he needs to pick up.
There's a couple.
Okay.
Nothing particular, and it depends if you're looking for something a bit more prestigious or if you're looking for something a little bit more functional.
Functional.
Okay, so that would be once you're back in Crowsfoot and making your way through the Devil's Furnace sub-district. There's a few things around there.
Okay.
I'm going to say I am going to make a fortune roll.
Hey now, I've already made rolls for these two things.
There's, it's essentially, are you buying it from a shop, which is obviously made it? However, you are in Crowsfoot. There are quite a lot of fences. Roll fortune. One. Three. Nothing. The fences that you encounter along the way down the little side streets and non-named, unnamed pathways are looking more at selling the smaller goods. So there is a furniture store. Nothing that's cushioned or particularly comfortable. Very, very functional wooden seating.
Well, thankfully, Gabriel wasn't looking for seating. This is
What are you after?
This is the location where he picks up both the door and the table from last time.
There's somewhere that has been newly renovated. Did you clear your indebted?
That's what we're going to clear it. This is essentially just the narrative of him clearing it.
Right. So you do find that there is one store which has been newly renovated. The new glass in the windows, slightly under new ownership, but with that the owners allow you to take the older door at a somewhat knockdown price. The table is a little bit questionable, slightly uneven. You probably need a couple of beer mats under one leg at least. But the means of breaking it last time this certainly doesn't have the structural integrity of the last one.
Noted. So, once Gabriel grabs those two things, he's heading straight back to the place because he's not gonna double back. That's a long walk. He's gonna make sure he at least has a ride for when he delivers the stuff.
They put everything to one side and ready for collection as and when is necessary. And crossing through Crowsfoot, through the Devil's Furnace, and back to the familiarity of Cinder Heights, you arrive back at the store as well. It's closed up for the evening, but obviously at this point now you've got your own key. And just through the windows, you can just about make out the form of Katerina making her way around. Her lenses now removed, because she is moving with a remarkable degree of deafness for somebody who's supposedly blind.
Finishing up for the day?
Yeah, it was a slow one. Something happened south. Everyone's afraid at the moment. No one wants to deal with the other side. At least that's how it seems.
What exactly happened? What have you heard?
Oh, just a few whispers here and there. Whispers. They're saying something, a bit strange. Maybe a little bit culty.
Gabriel kind of shrugs and turns his head to his side. interesting. But I'm not one of those whisper types. And he gives her a smirk.
Truth be told, I don't think I am either, but... no, I think or two.
Well, unless you're in the mood for sharing those thing or two, I shall let you get back to it.
Well, I can sort of see into the ghost field if I put my mind to it. That's about it.
Gabriel gives that nod of where you're appeasing the person rather than actually agreeing with them.
Oh no. Your friend's already back. The fancy lady, you know the one I mean.
Ah, yes. One of them may have a fancy suit, but I would only really classify one of them as fancy. All right.
Oh no, I recognise that type. Well, keep your hands in your pockets when they're around.
Or just don't have anything in your pockets, as Gabriel kind of hands being utterly broke at the moment. As Gabriel is.
And opening the door with a familiar creak. What is Lottie doing at the moment?
Pacing. She go from a spot to another, just mumbling and basically just waiting for the other to arrive, and she can't keep still.
And
Whoa. I don't know how much the floor can honestly handle. You might want to take it easy on the floor. Gabriel kind of has his hands up.
there is a decided creak under one slightly questionable floorboard every time you cross over it.
How things got you here? That's bad. Very bad. Where to start? Did you hear what happened?
I heard there was an incident in the south.
Yeah. So, the guy, the one we stole his pets. I stole his pets, and we give him the fake magical thingy to protect him from demons. Remember? We got a chair from him. Couple of chairs actually. Maybe we should get to this part.
Okay. Lottie. And at this point, Gabriel puts his hands on your shoulders. Deep breath. Okay. Now, from the beginning.
He's dead. Like, very, very dead. I didn't do it. It was... like, I don't think a human did it. It's like some kind of weird, big animal just mauled him. He had claws mark everywhere. He was missing his head and a hand, but mostly his head. Like, Duke wasn't here anymore. And yeah. I do sometimes shock people for a living, but I never saw a mess like this. Like.
All right. Okay. So, Gabriel kind of finds a place on the wall to kind of lean against. Once again, not really trusting the chairs all that much. He's surprised that one made it through the night that he slept on. And he pauses and he thinks for a moment. So, one of our marks has ended up dead in the streets. looking like they've been ripped apart by an animal, except for a removed head and removed hands. That sounds like an old Tuesday for me. I know the days of the week aren't necessarily the same, but
Home day.
home day sounds like a normal home day at my last crew. Okay. I'm assuming blue coats were already there.
Yeah, there were some of them.
Well, luckily, 9/10 of the force is incompetent.
Is that supposed to be reassuring? Maybe.
Well, yes, they wouldn't know what bit them even if the mosquito was 4 feet tall. So, you mentioned you sold him a fake magical artifact. What was the reasoning behind that artifact?
Oh, okay. This guy, he has this. He was obsessed with demons, and he wanted something to keep him safe from them. And I remember maybe it was Omen who said this, but it was a big one, like one of the powerful one you really don't want to have problem with. And yeah, he was really freaked out by it. So we tricked him into buying this protection.
Well,
Cool.
there's a couple of benefits there. One, you very clearly don't have like any fingerprints on him or anything like that, so don't have to worry about that. And two, and Gabriel kind of chuckles at this one as it comes out of his mouth. You help the demon get its target. Maybe the demon will give you some sort of reward.
Or he will come after us next.
Gabriel kind of nods and is just kind of mulling the situation over in his head a bit as he tries to think of what the next step might be.
So, you have multiple options here. Your head gears begin turning, wheels within wheels. The immediate things are, from some time ago, there was one of those names that was kind of floated. You remember seeing her name come up as one of the on one of those contracts. As far as you know, no one ever took it, and if the rumors mill is to be believed, she actually ended up paying off her own bounty, so to speak, meaning that the debt was considered settled, and that for the time being, assassins aren't generally out looking for her. The other potential is to look around. Slightly more risky is staying in Crowsfoot rather than moving you out to Silkshore and engaging with the ghost field directly. Crowsfoot being the most haunted district, and spirits have a way of knowing these things.
Well, one seems decidedly less likely to get me possessed. I think I'm gonna go with that option, which means... Now, I may remember a name, but I don't have any information because I didn't take that contract. So I'm gonna have to pay an old friend a visit.
Okay.
At the, Gabriel kind of speaks up a little bit. I may have an idea, but we're gonna need to go talk to an old... Oh... What is the terminology of... And he just throws out the word fixer of mine. From... a little bit in the past. I've been meaning to check up on her anyways after the incident. We're going to be visiting Priscilla Giant.
Lottie, that would, as a bounty hunter, that would be a name that it's floated around from time to time. Quite a lot of the bounty hunters do work as assassins, or moonlight assassins at least. They mainly all go through Priscilla Giant. She is the de facto organizer of the ciphers, the in Dusk messaging service. That essentially it's a typing pool who type out these tiny little messages, and a series of mainly children between 7 and 13 or 14 that just run around the city with these scraps of paper, delivering them to various recipients.
Oh.
That's the legitimate face of the operation. Behind that, Priscilla also organizes contract killing.
This sounds familiar to me. And you said you know her? Like, as an ally or as someone who wants you dead?
Well... Gabriel kind of pauses for a second, and he goes, not to rehash the past too much, but I've done some work for her. Some of that work earned the ire of some people in the high echelons of society that then decided to send the unseen after her and nearly killed her. We, however, exacted a bit of revenge, that whole bloody incident. So I guess we'll have to wait and see once we get there how my reception's gonna be. Gabriel kind of chuckles.
In the guns.
So, as the two of you make your way, once again, for Gabriel, heading back up north, and once again into Charter Hall, where in the north of the district, overlooking in the old quarter, you're led through a variety of streets and side alleys, and right up to the very north, you can almost see through the fog further kind of across the Emperor's Way, one of the many wider canals that runs through the city, and you arrive at the head office, one of many offices located of the ciphers, where Priscilla herself is actually in the process of leaving for the evening. And she turns.
And Gabriel kind of just gives a wave and says, long time no see.
Indeed. It's been something of a while, and, well, good to see you back. I'm assuming that you didn't fall quite so low as rumor has generated, perhaps?
Hey, actually, this is a good time to ask, what rumors have I heard?
Oh, all sorts. Obviously the most egregious ones being that you were dead. There was a couple that said you were now a pirate, and out in the void sea. There was some that you were a drunk vagrant. There's people like to make up their own stories.
Gabriel kind of goes, well, I'm not a drunk vagrant. I have a home. Though I do kind of like the idea of becoming a pirate, but I don't know if sea life would agree with me.
No, and let's be honest, it's potentially a calling for another day.
So, I've been meaning to check in on you. The last time I saw you, you were still fading in and out of consciousness.
Well, I think my memory's somewhat hazy of that time, I'll be honest. The combination of something of a heavy beating and heavy medication, my memory's somewhat spotty.
I would be surprised if it wasn't. Sadly, I am not here on just pleasure. I am here on a measure of business.
Well, I'm finished for the day. I was going to call on the cabbies, but I'm happy to walk if you wish to discuss and introduce me to your newfound acquaintance, I assume.
Yes.
Indicating Lottie with her old cigarette holder.
That is Lottie, Alfort.
Yes, some of my other contractors have mentioned the name. If you ever find yourself short on cash, you now know where to find me.
Oh. Sure.
And Gabriel kind of turns and goes, she pays. She does.
Okay. Taking a good note of that.
So.
And you begin to walk down the street.
I will, let Lottie, go ahead and explain since she was actually there. She would have a better idea of everything, than Gabriel.
Yeah. Lottie drew retell what she saw in a very better structured way that she did to Gabriel. She had time to collect her thoughts and not really freaking out anymore. And yeah, she's still really insisting on the missing head and the lacerations.
It sounds like I was going to go straight home, but I think it's best if we take a short detour. And rather than turning at the end of the street, rather than turning right to go back to Brightstone, she turns left to head deeper into Charter Hall, and from there, following the streets, and as she leads the way, making polite conversation as you go, there is a point where she turns off to the Charter Hall Library. This grandiose public building, column fronts, and well maintained. And you see as you arrive, there's a few very academic types coming and going.
And Gabriel kind of nods, looking at these people, and then goes, so, the reason why that brings us to you is I vaguely remember one of the contracts that you had given us a choice in. One of them, you didn't say that, you didn't say which contract it was, did you? The question for the storyteller.
It was one of those multiple choice ones.
Yeah, one of the contracts, you had mentioned, seemed to have some connection that might be worthwhile pursuing.
She thinks for a moment. I'd forgotten there was even a contract on her, but yes, great minds think alike, I suppose. I think it's best that you see this or read this for yourself. And as she leads the way back into the library, she goes, her voice dropping to a suitable whisper. The contract itself was for Anso Alora. Now, she's still operational and had something of a bit of a run-in with those that choose to work the world's oldest profession. She ended up squaring off her own bounty and squaring with those that she had a disagreement with, but as far as I know, she's still operational. And something of a representative, let's say, of one of the old forgotten gods.
Gabriel gives a somewhat smirk. Not all that forgotten, then.
Oh no, just a name that's given it those that have minimal following. More or less forgotten, not like the Weeping Lady, for example, who's more or less unmissable, especially in night markets.
Well, what is it that you need me to read?
As she goes through these various bookshelves, focusing more on the arcane stuff, she's kind of going down books, reading the spines, and eventually she takes one out and pages through it and hands it over. And there is a almost woodblock type image, very, very crude in terms of artistic ability, and probably dating back, the actual original probably dating back at least 500 years. This is now obviously just kind of been replicated and put into the print. And the demon in question is Sathiel. And in that whisper again, she's Ansa Aloro is something of a devout follower. But Sathiel was rumored to be rather vindictive. The missing head, the missing hands, all fit with an account of, and she turns over the page, and sure enough, in 311 Imperial, there was a string of very, very similar recorded murders.
At this point, Gabriel's kind of gonna move the group over to a table so, it's much more comfortable and easier to read a book. Also at this point, if Gabriel's allowed to, I would like to roll a study check so I can...
That is...
There is...
You can take a devil's bargain.
Ooh.
The records in Charter Hall can be of particular interest to criminal sorts. Take a devil's bargain for a +1 die to gather information here in exchange for 1 +1 heat.
our last few things haven't generated any heat, so I will actually go ahead and take that if that's okay with Lottie.
Of course.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So that is a +1.
Absolutely.
Can Lottie help him in any way?
You can assist. So
Yeah.
you take 1 stress and you get another +1.
You willing to do that?
And just I have already 5 stress. I don't think it's a good idea.
That's fair. 5. Oof.
Oh. So as you do this, you read the documentation there, and Sathiel itself has rarely been seen, but certainly matches the methods always and especially actions carried out in its name have always matched that level of brutality. The few cases that have been before and since have often been low-key cults trying essentially to gain its attention. One of them was a little bit more effective than intended and ended up in a massacre of the entire cult, which itself was only a few members, but obviously they garnered a little bit more attention than they had intended.
Right, so this thing likes to leave bodies in its wake. Will. Seems like we've got to pay a visit to the lovely area of Silk Shore. We'll probably find Brolin passed out in some dumpster there.
So why the what will be the reason for that demons acting on like this on someone? Is there any conditions, any particular things that can offend him or his followers?
Not that you find in the records. There seems to be no correlation between the victims, and there's no particular physical qualities that seem to be favoured. All seems to be pretty random.
That guy said that he had a target in his back, probably with this demon. So it's not like he was picked out. Like at some point, he was really targeted for a long time.
Yeah. Makes you wonder what he did.
Yeah. And what to do to not end up like him?
Well, as stated, I'm not so certain that we're honestly in any danger. As stated, if anything, we helped Sathiel here. Though I'm not sure what he considers payment. It might be one of those, oh, your payment is to live in my arms forever, and then, you know, we end up in the lake with the hagfishes.
On that, of course.
However, it is the reason why I feel like we probably need to get over and pay that person a visit so we can learn a little bit more and figure out exactly what needs to be done here to make sure we're in the free and clear and smelling like a rose.
And so, at this point, we shall begin the score.
You have just finished listening to this week's episode of Blades in the Dark, What Happens in the Dusk, part of the Domain Gaming, written and told by Wyverian and Livespark. A special thanks to you, the listener, and if you wish to continue supporting us, subscribe, like, and share. As always, comments are welcome. Until the next chapter, remember the first rule of a con. Offer them everything for nothing, and give them nothing for everything.